session. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, aliens and earthlings, welcome to the Urban Spirituality Walk on the Wise Side show with myself, Prash K, and this very fine-looking gentleman to my left, the one, the only, and the unique Mr. Glenn Harrold.
Hello there, Prash. Always good to see you, and you're on my left, actually.
Okay, so there we go. The left is the symbol of the heart, so that's a great thing. Folks, let me just do a little bit of an introduction for those of you who haven't encountered or met or heard of Glenn Harrold. You should have. We are looking at arguably the most popular and well-regarded self-help author, audio author for sure, in the UK. He has had more sales of his products than virtually any audio author anywhere in the UK and Europe. His books are published 10 million copies across the world. His recordings are extremely well rated. There are celebrities like Naomi Harris and others who have given Glenn a big thumbs up. And his audio series is one of the highest rated on the Insight Timer app, which is some achievement given how many audios there are on Insight Timer. There are thousands. And out of that, Glenn's is in the top 5. Glenn has helped tens of thousands of people across the world. People still write to him years after with the amount of benefit and catharsis and transformation they've experienced thanks to Glenn. His journey spans 20 years. He was a gangster at one stage, turned musician, turned self-help author, turned celebrity. I could just go on and on and on. I'm just going to shut up and say, please show your love for the wonderful Glenn Harrold.
Prash, that has to be the best intro I've ever had. If ever I'm feeling down, I'm just going to replay that.
You better do that. That's from the heart. Con corazón, right? En español, con corazón.
Fantastic.
Para ti.
Yeah. Well, how are you, my friend?
Then I'm really happy to be here.
Whenever I speak to you personally, you know, we're friends. We know each other personally. You're a great friend of my son. And whenever we talk, you know, personally, I always feel buzzed up. The last time you came over here to Spain, because you've got a place near me out here, we had a jam, didn't we? An impromptu jam.
We had such a jam.
You lifted the place. You always lift the place up, and I feel,
oh man,
I feel buzzed up when you're around. So
I feel honored, actually, and I think people, and this is what one of the things I really hope for from this show, from this online interview with you, is really to open up a little bit of your life, your background, to your wonderful fan base and followers, your admirers, people who've been loyal to you, who consume your products, people who perhaps know the Glenn Harrold, who's a world-class hypnotherapist and self-help author, but people who may not know the vulnerable, difficult, and turbulent times you've experienced over the past 30, 40 years of your life. And I think that's the side of Glenn that we want to hear a little bit about before we go into the law of attraction. And I would indulge you, if I may, to indulge us in a little bit of your background, Glenn.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm in a very nice, abundant place now. You know, I live in southern Spain, as you know. You know, I've got major publishing deals, selling lots of recordings all over the world, which is wonderful. But, you know, it wasn't always like that. A long, long time ago, I was in a very stuck place. I was struggling a lot. And I told this story a few times. I was in a band when I was young, and we would do interviews. It was the only kind of light in my life, in my younger life, because, you know, when I was very young, I used to run away from home at a young age. I got into drink and drugs, and I ran with a bit of a gang, and I was up before magistrates, and, you know, and these are the highlights, by the way. So it was a very, very tough, dark time, you know, and but the one little light in there was that I joined a punk band when I was like 16. And we had a little bit of success back in the early 80s. But whenever we did interviews, and we do radio interviews and, you know, occasionally television, I would clam up and I couldn't actually speak on the microphone. All the guys in the band would say their piece on the to camera and that, and I couldn't speak. And it got so bad that they would take the mickey out of me because all I would say is hello and goodbye. So I was crippled with this anxiety and lack of self-belief and self-worth. And it was quite chronic when I look back then to how I am now. And so that kind of is a real contrast to where I was at. And it was only really through years of therapy later on. And, you know, it's kind of what led me into therapy, because I had a mountain of negative conditioning, failure programming. I mean, my headmaster kicked me out of school when I was 15, and he said I was the worst kid he'd had in the school for 10 years.
Gosh.
So I had no qualifications. I did no exams at all. So I was set for sort of, you know, a long, difficult road ahead. And it was for a long time. But it was really when I discovered hypnotherapy that I found a way that I could change my internal conditioning,
right,
clear away a lot of the negative programming that I'd been loaded with as a kid, and, you know, step into a more abundant lifestyle. And it didn't happen straight away, but the more I worked on my inner self, the more life began to change and the more abundant it became. So that was the journey. And, you know, I'm glad I've done it, because I've got the knowledge and experience that I can pass on to my clients. And, you know, in my recordings, I infuse my recordings with a lot of the things that I've learned over the years. So, yeah.
Can I just say that I think that's one of the things, in, you know, having experienced different therapists and different authors, one of the things that I feel is specific about yourself is the fact that you speak from your depth, you speak from the experience and the turmoil that you've actually experienced. And that's, I think that's precious, because everybody sees you now. And I know I saw an episode of you on BBC TV, BBC Breakfast. You've been on, they invite you on a regular basis to do stuff. You're obviously publishing for BBC even in the present day. And it's easy for us to think, well, it's fine for Glenn to manifest and do abundant stuff because he's already made. He's got a great place in South Spain, an amazing partner, great kids, so on and so forth. But people don't see the journey that you had to be through. And I think recognizing that you had lows and highs, just like the rest of us average people, I think is a big thing to exemplify that the law of attraction can work. You're living proof of that.
Well, for me, as soon as I discovered the law of attraction in my probably early 30s, and I realized and I believed in it, you know, it wasn't just discovering. Suddenly, you know, I got to a point where I was so hungry for a change, because I'd had so much struggle and so much difficulty up until, you know, my sort of 30s, really. And I wanted to change that so much. So I had the fire in my belly.
Right.
Clearing a lot of the negative conditioning was a big part of it. But then the law of attraction, when I realized that I could, you know, project goals out there and I could manifest things through the power of my meditations, that was a big turning point for me. And so when I started on that road, I read every book I could about it, and I immersed myself in it. I really did. And I believed in it. I totally believed you could do this. You know, the power of the mind is an amazing thing. And we're the only species on the planet that uses all of our brain doesn't use all of our brain all of the time. You know, most other species on the planet are using all of their brain all the time. So
the capacity is matched, right? They have a finite capacity, and the intellect is obviously highly unrefined. So there's only so much that they can accomplish. Absolutely,
yeah. Whereas we've got this unconscious resource that's immense, and we've got superhuman ability when we tap into that. So I'd always believed in that concept, but, you know, studying hypnotherapy and then getting into the law of attraction really gave me these tools to start to manifest. And so I would, you know, literally every single day I'd be laying on my bed at home, and I'd be, you know, affirming that I was, you know, doing all these amazing things, living in southern Spain, driving an Aston Martin, having a holiday home in Florida, you know, having £1 million house.
Right.
And I used to resonate with this so deeply. You know, a lot of my goals originally were material. They were very on the material plane, because I'd been broke. I've been flat broke all my life, and I got sick of it. You know, the restrictions you've got in your life when you're broke are horrible. So I was desperate to change that. And so I would meditate on these goals, you know, every single day religiously.
Right.
And, one of the stories I always tell is that
Right.
I cut out a picture. I got a picture of an Aston Martin
Right.
in my computer, and I visualized driving this car, feeling my hands on the steering wheel, putting my foot on the accelerator, and it would growl and I'd take off. And all of these things, I was a young guy at the time, and I thought this is, I'll have a bit of James Bond,
Yeah.
And within a number of years later, I was on my way I was setting the day. I was driving up to Birmingham to pick up a new Aston Martin. I'd manifest this car. And on the day I was going up there, a picture of this car popped out on my computer. And it was the one that I'd meditated on.
Phenomenal.
And I went up, bought this car, and I remember driving it back from Birmingham, and I felt I was floating on air. I was driving it back, and it was just an incredible feeling. It was one of those moments, and it was very much a material thing, like I say, but it was a real thing. I was a kid that got kicked out of school and told I was going to go nowhere. Suddenly I was driving this Aston Martin. And there's a bit more to the story I can tell you if you want me to. But
well, let me ask you a question here, actually, and I'm hoping, and folks, if you're listening intently to this story unravel about Glenn's background, please click in with some questions, because I got a question right here, right now, for many people who may be listening who are not necessarily religious. They're not necessarily deeply spiritual. And many people may feel that this law of attraction is a little bit of a woo-woo thing. What would you say to people who would think that it's something religious or spiritual, or that would they have to subscribe to that in order to actually have such an unseen law work for them?
I think you've got to, sometimes you have to suspend your faith a little bit.
Right.
So it's like, until Newton discovered gravity, no one knew it was there. It's the same thing, it's this unseen force that's out there that we can tap into. Yeah. And you can't, like gravity, you can't see it, but it exists. And, for me, I've always had that mindset where I'll try it. I'll work with it and go with it, and I'll find out if I feel it works, if it kind of resonates with me inside. I've not got a scientific sort of mindset, so I can go on gut feeling very much and trust. And sometimes you get it wrong. You don't always get it right, but I've always been like that. And with the law of attraction, when I read about it and I studied it and I realized it had been around for a long time, it was nothing new.
Right.
It was just kind of being rediscovered in the modern age. And so I would immerse myself in it. And, and because I've been able to manifest a lot of the goals that I set myself in those early days, I have absolutely no doubt that it works. And it works for anyone. It's not a selected few. It's like if you wanted to go to the gym and you wanted to build a good physique, you'd have to work out 4 times a week. You'd have to put a lot of energy into it. Right. But over time, your body would tone up and you'd look the part, you'd look how you want to look. And it's the same with the mind. Like you. Exactly, Prash.
I'm just kidding, man. I do put it in 4 times a week, man. 4 times a week.
That's why you look
diet.
So good.
Thanks, man. Vegan diet, just like you. And folks, if you're listening in here, maybe you should consider a vegan diet. We're not here to preach, but hey, rock on vegans. Sorry, I get distracted.
I think with the law of attraction, you touched on a really interesting point there, because for me, the law of attraction works better when you're clearer.
Right.
So for me, I had a lot of failure programming around money and success. And one of the things that I work through, I'm working on a new book at the moment called Wealth is Your Birthright, which it should be. It should be everyone's birthright. Wealth and abundance should be one of the most natural things. It shouldn't be a struggle. It shouldn't be difficult. It should be easy.
Right.
But I remember years and years ago, my parents having a big row, and it was so traumatic that it anchored itself in my unconscious mind. So just seeing and hearing that argument at a young age was a very negative piece of conditioning that I had rattling around in my unconscious mind. So I had to clear that and many other things like that before the law of attraction really began to work for me. And so I think that's important. The clearing work is equally as important as the manifesting work. So as I was on that clearing journey and I was doing the manifesting at the same time, I think I was able to speed the process up and manifest more quickly. And you know, touching on the vegan thing, you know, for me, you know, not eating food that's come from cruelty, animal cruelty, is an important part of, you know, raising your consciousness and expand, you know, being raising your vibration.
Yeah,
And that,
clearing that channel.
yeah, and that's all part of manifesting. For me, you know, you know, having an expanded consciousness and, you know, coming from your heart, you know, projecting your goals from your heart. That's another big one. I often encourage people to do that through, you know, my recordings. You know, manifest your goals from your heart, project them out from a good place, from the highest good for everyone. So you manifest things that are for the highest good of everyone. And so the expanded consciousness, you know, veganism's a personal choice, but, you know, for me, it's a big part of my life and part of the whole holistic abundance journey.
So I want to touch on that. You talked about clearing, and I want to get into that a little bit. For those people who are, and folks, if you're listening in, I want to hear your feedback on the law of attraction. I said this at the start of the call in case you missed it. Folks, both respected friends and followers of Glenn and respected friends and followers of urban spirituality, mantra therapy, all of you who are listening and tuned in, let's get your feedback on how the law of attraction has unfolded for you. For those of you who are not aware of the law of attraction, this was popularized, not originated by, but popularized by Rhonda Byrne, who was the brainchild of something called The Secret, which is, I guess, a sort of a movement, but was actually a movie that came out a good sort of 7-8 years ago. And The Secret was really a viral, global impacting piece of film that showed people how they can utilize. They introduced people to this law of attraction and showed people how they can use it. But many people years after felt that it sold them short, Glenn. I think, keep me honest here. I think a lot of people, and you know, you deal with thousands of clients globally. I know you have a big fan base in the States. You have people across the globe. And didn't I hear you say on many occasions that the law of attraction hasn't worked for them? That's kind of what they're coming back to you with.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of that people are getting frustrated because they're using the law of attraction and it's not, you know, manifesting the things that they hoped it would. And I think, you know, The Secret was a fantastic film, you know, so well put together, and it, you know, touched the masses. It went global and viral. It was a really clever documentary.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of only gave part of the picture because, you know, for me, the clearing side of things, it's been such an important part of the law of attraction and manifesting.
Right.
And without that, you know, without clearing a lot of the failure programming that I had inside me, I know that I wouldn't have been able to.
You wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, the law of attraction wouldn't have worked half as well. You know, I might have been able to manifest a few things, but I had a lot of stuff that was holding me back. So clearing that freed me up.
I think isn't it very much like, you know, taking a simple analogy that, you know, we all, you know, probably have an office in our homes, and we have a desk or a space which we call our study. And I think everybody can relate to the productivity boost that happens just by clearing our desk space. Just by clearing our own desk space or the clutter around us, around our desk or our office space, we're able to almost magically think better, perform better, and so forth. So why would it not be true for something like the law of attraction, where the objects on our table are, in that sense, objects, blockers, self-limiting beliefs, other misconceptions that we have about ourselves that are deeply rooted within the subconscious, which is, of course, the area where you roam like a Spartan warrior with your sword and cutting it for your clients. Is it not that's kind of holding us back? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, that's a massive part of it, isn't it? Because you know, money is such a big thing for so many people, you know, and you know, if you think our parents, the stuff that we've inherited from them, you know, especially as they possibly weren't as fortunate as we are in this day and age. You know, so there's a lot of negative conditioning that gets passed down through the generations. And that can be, you know, anchored away in our unconscious mind and ticking over. And, you know, people sometimes sabotage opportunities,
Right.
and they wonder why they do it. They're on the cusp of, just breaking through or doing something big, and they do something stupid or something happens and it breaks down.
Right.
And that can be as a result of unresolved issues that you haven't cleared. And it could be sort of, stuff that's happened in this lifetime. It could be karmic stuff. It could be family stuff. It could be stuff you brought into this life.
Right, and that's kind of that creates a congestion or almost like a traffic jam between your desires to manifest and the actual fruit of that manifestation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that when I started on the manifesting work and I set my goals, I did one that I would say I'd earn X amount every month. I had a figure that I wanted to earn every month, and that was the goal. And part of my conditioning, it would come in and it would say, well, how are you going to do that? You've never earned $1,000 a month. How are you going to suddenly do that? And it was like this negative conditioning that was bugging me, and it was coming into my mind. So I really worked on clearing that away and letting it go and recognizing it was no longer a part of where I was going. And that's as important as the goal setting and the abundance affirmations and projections. That's a really important part of this work, which people kind of missed.
I really like that, Glenn, because I remember having this conversation with you a few years ago. Was it not the case that there was a time when you were one of London's finest taxi drivers? I'm exaggerating. You were a taxi driver in London.
Yeah.
I was driving nowhere near what you could now. And was it not during those days as a taxi driver that you were actually putting those manifestations into place? You were visualizing and using those affirmations on a monthly basis. Wasn't that the time? And you had to contend with those limiting beliefs that how can I do that? The challenge of the how. Let's talk about that, because the how gets in the way every single time. Anytime, at least for me, if I'm manifesting, I'm thinking, but how am I going to do that? What am I going to do? Manifest $1 million, but I'm not even earning anywhere near that. So the how almost sounds like it's paralyzing us from actually doing something. Glenn, help us out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was, it's kind of difficult. At that time, I was driving a mini cab. I did it for about 4 or 5 years. I used to drive a mini cab through the night in the West End of London. And it was, it was as colorful as you can get. I met some weird and wonderful characters doing that. And it was,
of course,
it was a great prelude to becoming a hypnotherapist and seeing clients, because I'd met every kind of person and had some amazing conversations with some celebrities and, and every type of person you could meet. And so, that was when I kind of enjoyed that job. It was a fun job. I felt like I was Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. You kind of get that cool vibe driving around the West End at night and meeting all these different people and having colorful conversations. But at the same time, I didn't want to do that for a long time. I didn't want to, I wanted something different. I wanted change, and I had the fire in my belly back then. So I used to park up at 3 a.m. in Mayfair or whatever, and I'd be reading books on the law of attraction, because I wanted out. I was immersing myself in it. And I think that's another key element. You have to get really, really hungry to change. If you really want something, to raise the quality of your life and to change your circumstances, you really have to get that fire in your belly. And I wanted that really badly, because I'd only ever known struggle and failure. My parents weren't really very proud of me up to then. I'd caused them a lot of grief. I mean, they caused me quite a lot of grief as well. So
dysfunctional family, going to gangs. With the old bill. That's the police for you international listeners, by the way.
Yeah, I was on first name terms with the local magistrate in my area. It was not good news.
I just can't imagine you being that way, Glenn, but I think that just exemplifies even more that what needs to change is our mindset. It has to be here. It has to be inside. Yeah. And what you're talking about is a deeply felt thirst, a hunger to want to change. And maybe sometimes difficult times cause that, right? You may have to have bad experiences in order to feel like, okay, I've had enough. I don't want any more. I think that's it. That's you. People have to have tipping points, Glenn. Is that?
Yeah, you get sick of. I was sick of failure. I was utterly sick of failure, and it was every part of my life. It wasn't just money and career, it was relationships, it was everything. And I knew I had to do a lot of clearing. You know, and whatever your circumstances, even if you're not struggling, even if you're in a comfortable job, but you want out, you want something else, you know, use that fire, you know, get some fire in your belly and think, I'm going to do this, and use the law of attraction, you know, use it regularly every night. Have affirmation cards on your bathroom mirror, you know, write down a list of your, you know, your top 5 goals. What do you want to achieve in the short term, medium term, long term? You know, set a list of goals and then work on them diligently. I mean, I used to do, in the daytime, I was also doing a driving job, and I used to drive up to Colchester every Friday. My oldest son, Lee, remembers this because he sometimes used to come with me. But I used to do affirmations all the way up there. I turn the radio off and I'd just be affirming that I'm always in the right place at the right time. Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. All of my needs are constantly met. And that was like my mantra. That was going around my head so often, and it became self-fulfilling. And suddenly I started to meet people where opportunities came along, and, you know, doors were opening all over the place. And you know, there were small opportunities at first, but I always took them. I always saw opportunities and I took them and made the most of them. And I think that was the key. That was, you know, the hunger fuels that.
We've got a question which
sorry, mate.
is coming in. That's right. We've got a question coming in. Somebody's asking, and Parul, thank you. Is it true that when people say the law of attraction may not always work if it's not your karma to have it? For instance, and some people may have no control of things in their life due to their past actions. So I guess the question there is, how does the law of karma factor in the law of attraction?
I think that, you know, it depends what you believe your karma is. I think if you believe that, you know, it's struggle and hardship and that kind of thing, and, you know, and I certainly believed that about myself when I was younger.
Right.
You know, I kind of expected bad luck because that was what I was used to all my life. You know, so I was projecting that out, you know, bad luck was going to come my way. And sure enough, it always did. And it became self-fulfilling.
Right.
But now I don't. I believe that I'm abundant on every level. I believe that good things happen to me, and, you know, I'm totally on that abundance vibration. And I think, you know, I worked through a lot of my negative karma in my younger life, you know, and I'm not arrogant enough to think that I worked through it all. I definitely haven't. You know, there's still a long way to go, and I'll always be on the therapy trail, the clearing trail. You know, I'll be on that until I'm, you know, take my final breath on this planet. But so I think karma, you know, is something that you can work through in this life. And if you have come in with negative karma around money, you know, and abundance, you can clear that. You can work through that, which is exactly what I did. You know, and I cleared a lot of that so that I was then able to step into this much more abundant lifestyle.
So I think there's a lot to be said for that, to clear negative karma. That is that, you know, let me, to put it another way, you got to pay your dues. If you know you've done wrong in the past, try to make amends now. Make amends with the people you've wronged. Make amends in the situations that you perhaps didn't conduct yourself in the best way. That may not be with those people from the past, right? I mean, you may not have those people. Certain people that you had difficult times with may have left and they're not around anymore. But there's a way to make amends in the current life and do good and act in such a way that you're acting in a positive way without expectation. Is that a way, a genuine way to help clear that negative karma, Glenn?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, well, one of my big experiences with that, with clearing karma, was a few years ago. I did a very, very powerful ayahuasca ceremony. And ayahuasca is a sacred combination of a sacred vine and a sacred plant that mix together create this amazing drink that you take in a ceremonial setting that can help you to clear karma, clear conditioning, and, you know, kind of face your shadow. And I've sometimes likened it to like 50 therapy sessions in one night.
Well, ayahuasca, of course, means the vine of death. That's its translation from the old Peruvian language. It is you meet a certain kind of death, an ego death of sorts.
an ego death. And I really experienced that so strongly when I was in my
Wow.
first ceremony. But one of the things I got in that was that my downline, my family downline, my dad was a businessman. My granddad was a bookmaker, and they all did made money, but they did it sometimes not always in the best possible way. It was tough times and people did things, acted accordingly.
Sure.
But I had this really powerful vision in this ayahuasca ceremony that it came to me like my patriarchal downline, which was my dad, my granddad, and great granddad. I could see them in the rocks in America. The presidents in America.
Yeah. Right there on Mount Rushmore.
In Mount Rushmore, I could see their faces in the rock, and they were saying to me, keep doing what you're doing, because I was in the healing business. I was, healing myself. I was helping to heal other people.
Yeah.
And I was doing this good work, and I felt really nourished in myself through the work I was doing. And I was getting this message really strong. Keep doing what you're doing because you're healing a lot of the family karma.
Wow. That's powerful.
And it was so powerful. And I read afterwards, after I finished that ayahuasca experience, I read that that's a common thing, experience in ayahuasca. When you connect with your downline and you kind of communicate and you can heal family karma. I didn't know that at the time. I just had this amazing vision and experience and feeling. And so I know that I feel strongly anyway that I'm helping to do that, and I've done that. And so that, my downline won't struggle so much in the way that I did. There's a bit of a freer and easier space. We've all got our individual karma to go through, but there's also family karma to take on board, which is a big factor if you're, working with the law of attraction.
Yeah, massively, right? I mean, I think people, I love to use the analogy of a house that you've inherited. If you've inherited a house with a ton of clutter and rubbish, you can barely walk through it. That clutter is likened to your family's karma. That is your ancestral karma. That is your parental karma. All those objects that are scattered around the floor of that inherited house are your karma. You got a choice. You either leave those objects as they are and navigate around them and spend the next 10, 20, 30 years tripping over that damn stuff, or you actually positively start clearing that clutter. And by doing so, you start tripping up less. That is to say, you clear the negative karma that was inherited, and you start to clear the way for your future generations, right? That's what we're talking about here.
That's such a great point, because, with money, there's an energy with that, isn't there? And if you inherit it or you win it, you often hear these hard luck stories where people have suddenly come into a lot of money, but life gets worse for them, which sounds really crazy because you think, everything's going to be sorted, but it's because you have to, certainly, clear the karma, clear the family karma, but it's also about, abundance for me is so much more than just having money. It's doing, it's doing good with money. It's being using it in the right way. A lot of people make money and they have a position of power and they get, looked up to, and the ego kicks in and they can abuse that. Yeah. And then, they can, you read stories all the time where people are billionaires or whatever, and their life
just misuse their power and their responsibility, and then they've messed up their own lives.
So abundance is the whole thing. It's not just about that. It's, it's about, working in the right way and being heart-centered as much as you can, and doing good with it, and not allowing your ego, because the ego is the biggest trap in this life, isn't it? It's so easy that it comes up, especially when, you go from, like me, struggle, and hardship. And then suddenly I was in that £1 million house with a convertible Mercedes. And,
with your Aston Martin thereafter, etc.
And it was quite a short space of time. It happened fairly quickly. And I remember getting, my ego kicked in. It did, because I was, all my life I'd felt a failure. And then suddenly I was, these material possessions. And so I had this phase where I had to kind of work through that and come to terms with it and recognize that I was exactly the same person I was when I was broke, but I'd become more abundant. And so to accept that, and the gratitude, I think gratitude is a powerful thing, because it really can humble you and bring you back to the basics. And, I'm writing a course at the moment, and the first day of that course is all about gratitude. And I constantly, if you wake up every morning and, you're grateful for the the air that you breathe and the fact that you can get out of bed, and your family and the love you've got. And, you know, any material possessions, that's a nice bonus, but just connect with that feeling of gratitude, and you know, it keeps your ego in check. So I think that's the thing. When you do start to acquire abundance and become more abundant, and you have material possessions, people can sometimes change towards you. That's a big thing. You know, I did notice that, you know, to a degree. And so you've got to keep your ego in check. That's a really important part of it, because, you know, I think so many people fall at that hurdle.
Let me touch on that hurdle, because I think there's a very important point that you've just touched on here. Let's take a scenario of many of our listeners and viewers right now who haven't made it as a millionaire, who perhaps haven't reached the successes that they want to, okay? But at the same time, they have these great desires to reach certain heights and so on and so forth. For those people who are not experiencing the abundance that they want to, how important is it to work with the situation that they have in front of them? That is to say, what key things do they need to do in order to start reaching there if they haven't? You're talking about kind of keeping the ego in check when we reach that position, but if we're not even anywhere near there, what can we do? You mentioned gratitude, and we've heard that, right? You know, that you got to get grateful for what you got, even if you've got a job which is far, far away from where you want to be, or an income range, or whatever it is. You don't have the person of your dreams in front of you. You got to get grateful for the basics. Is that like the cornerstone, the foundation?
Yeah, I think always be grateful for what you've got and the opportunities you've got. And even if you're, you know, living at the top of a tower block, as I once did, and driving a minicab, you know, connect with a sense of gratitude for the opportunities you've got. Because what I realized was, even though I was driving a minicab and living in a tower block,
right,
in Penge in South London, I was, you know, there was a lot of potential. You know, I lived in a part of the world where you can go from being completely broke to becoming very successful in quite a short space of time. We live in a very opportunistic part of the world.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, with the internet now, it's opened the window for so many people all over the world, and that's spreading, you know, all over the world. So we do live in quite an amazing age. You know, you think of this age, we're going through a digital revolution that's probably bigger than the industrial revolution that, you know, took people out of the fields and put them into factories and changed the world 200 years ago.
Massive, yeah, in such a short space of time as well.
It's huge. It's monumental. We're right in the middle of it, and there's opportunities everywhere. So I think you have to get into the mindset of seeing opportunities and opening up to the possibility of opportunities coming to you all the time, and meditate. Make that one of your mantras.
I would say that opportunities are more likely to come if you have your ego in check. That is to say, you stay humble, and B, that you are grateful, that you get into an attitude of gratitude. And I would, to me, I would say this: every single, because you touched on it, and I got this real bee in my bonnet about all these get rich quick people on the internet right now. I'm sick and tired of seeing these 20 and 30-year-old millennials who are saying you can get rich quick overnight. It's amazing. You can do that. Not because I've got anything against them, and not because they may have achieved that, but what they're doing is they're inculcating and impregnating people's consciousness with a certain type of attitude, which is actually not the kind of attitude that you want for longevity. People are teaching us to get rich quick. Actually, we should get grateful quick. We should be grateful really quick. And however much grateful we think we are, we bloody well are not. I think the problem is we're not grateful. I'm getting really passionate about this, partly because I think I'm fucking grateful, but I'm not. I'm not as grateful as I need to be. And if you're listening to this, guys, think about it and ask yourself in your heart, are you really, really grateful for what you got here and now in your life? Forget about getting rich quick. Think about getting grateful quick. Build that foundation, as Glenn is saying, because I think that has got to be the most powerful way to start attracting unseen laws and vibrations and frequencies to your consciousness, so you can start aligning with that law of attraction. I'm getting passionate. Sorry, man. It's just flowing now, man.
Prash, this is it, mate. You know, it's about you know, the vibrational energy. That's the key part of the law of attraction, and gratitude plays a massive part of that. And I think you know, for me, when I got into the law of attraction, I really, you know, was resonating with that on so many different levels. You know, that gratitude thing I was working on, I was, you know, doing the manifesting work, I was clearing.
Right.
That time, I virtually went teetotal. I'd stopped smoking a number of years before. You know, no drugs anymore. It was went vegan. Well, went vegetarian first, then vegan.
Right.
You know, I was raising my consciousness. I was expanding my vibration, and that all, you know, played into the law of attraction work that I was doing. It was an important part of that. It's, you know, so the vibration is everything. But I think as well, you know, another big thing is I wanted to become abundant, but I wanted to do it on my terms, in doing things that I loved. And, you know, somehow I started, you know, I was a hypnotherapist. I became a hypnotherapist. I did a 2-year diploma in London. And I didn't, at that time, you know, I just wanted to kind of heal myself. I wanted to, you know, I love the idea of hypnotherapy, the power of the mind, all that kind of thing. It really fascinated me. I want to learn more about it. You know,
Right.
and then building a career in that, you know, that took time, you know, but because I was doing all this work, you know, within a couple of years of coming out of college, I was seeing like 25 clients a week.
Phenomenal. That
And
was
it was
just
really,
your 2-year diploma, right?
yeah, I did a 2-year diploma and then
Phenomenal.
came out of college, and you suddenly, it's a, yeah, then you've got to kind of learn to sell yourself. And this was back before the internet. So
Right. You didn't have that.
we didn't have it. So I used to go out putting postcards in shop windows and
Right.
telling you know, going to a shop down the road, and, you know, I'd be talking to the people behind the
Phenomenal.
counter, and slowly, but then I got to a point where I was seeing 25 clients a week. And then I had the
Incredible.
light bulb moment. Maybe I could start making recordings. Maybe I could, because I've been a musician in my younger life, and I
Right.
always had a little recording studio at home.
Right.
But then I started making these recordings, and I called them, you know, hypnosis recordings, which back then in the 90s, there was nobody really making them. You
No.
know, now there's a massive industry around it. And, you know, so back then I was kind of lucky. I was one of the first people, certainly in the UK, to do anything like that. And I started to deliver them into local stores, and, you know, a £5 sale or return. And I'd literally drive around to local chemists and stores and deliver them in there, and they started selling. And I'll tell you a story. At that time, I borrowed £1,000 off the bank to get some nice little display stands made,
Okay.
because I was making homemade display stands, putting in these stores. So I borrowed £1,000. Before I'd finished paying that loan off 3 years later, I had 5 people working for me, and we were turning over like £500,000 a year.
Phenomenal.
And my PA said to me at the time, she said, "What's this £36 coming out of her account?" And I said, "Oh, that's the loan I took out a few years ago to pay for the stands." And so the whole thing just went through the roof, and suddenly it was, you know, so I was immersed in this abundance thing, and it was such an amazing journey when I look back.
That's incredible. And I want to, for the audience's benefit, having just heard the difficult times, and I think, and just to say, that wasn't a year or two of a slog. From a troubled childhood and a dysfunctional family, this was 10, 15 years in the making. You had to go through that. You chose to go to the hypnotherapy school and do the diploma. You then got the bright idea to go home and use your musician's recording equipment for something other than music. It was yourself. And I think that tells us I think that's another gem, I guess. What I'm picking up here is using our 2 things, intuition and initiative. These 2 factors have to come in. Maybe we're not using our intuition enough. We're not listening to our inner voice enough. And that may be because maybe we're not meditating enough. Maybe we need to listen to some of the recordings you have on Insight Timer. A little plug there for you folks out there. Listen to Glenn's recordings, or listen to powerful sounds that will get you into a state where your intuition can start to speak. And as your intuition speaks, allow your initiative to kick in. And that's clearly what you've done in order to take you in those journeys, right?
That's a really good point, because, you know, with the, you know, the work that I was doing on myself, you know, if back then, when I, you know, even when I became a hypnotherapist and I was seeing clients, you know, if somebody said to me, "You're going to you know, within 15 years, you're going to sell 40 million pounds worth of recordings around the world. It would have blown my mind. But
unbelievable.
from delivering them into local stores. But yeah, because I was so tuned into my unconscious, and I was working on, you know, manifesting and that kind of thing. This is what I mean, where opportunities came to me. I did meet the right people at the right time. You know, even getting into the chemist stores, you know, that was a bit of an achievement back then, because the guy that was running them, he was very difficult to speak to, but I used to ring him up on a daily basis, never get through to him.
Right.
And eventually I got through to him and I said, "Oh, Dennis, you know, can I sell my recordings?" He said, "Put them in 3 stores and we see how they go." Put them in 3 stores. They sold well. I went back to him. He said, "Yeah, put them in 60 stores." And then I phoned up Waterstones back in the day. I used to ring them up.
Yeah.
And I used to deliver them into Waterstones, ship them in there. And then one day someone rang me up and said, "You're on core stock." I said, "Well, what's that mean?" He said, "Well, it means that your recordings are now graded so that we will order them without you having to ring us up, because they could tell us." And that opened up, you know, and I got lucky. I got so lucky. But that's where the opportunities come along, because you're doing the abundance work, because you're working with this. Your intuition is in, you know, refined, and you're on the right road. And that's the important part for me. You know, I never wanted to, you know, if you could say you could make 10 million the wrong way or 1 million the right way, I'd always take the 1 million the right way, because you enjoy it. You know, the whole abundance thing is aligned. It's aligned with the divine. You're enjoying what you've got.
Right.
Because I know people who have got 10 million and they're not enjoying life. They're struggling. It sounds weird, but I know people who are doing that, and life's tough for them. You know, so the abundance thing is so much more than just, you know, just making money.
So let's talk about, you know, and you've hit it there. So let's talk about the key points then for helping us to make the law of abundance work for us, to really make true abundance work for us. I've got number 1, get hungry, hanker for change, but somehow at the same time also be satisfied, be happy with your scenario at the present time, and yet get hungry to strive and desire for more, right? That's 1. Number 2, clear yourself, body, mind, and soul. It's not just your mind. Clear your body. That may mean dietary changes. It means mental changes. It means getting real with yourself. If your ego is getting in your way, it means clearing yourself. So cleansing yourself through various means: meditation, reflection, physical changes, detoxes. You did ayahuasca. I think that's an incredibly powerful tool, and people may consider any number of tools, from hypnotherapy and through the many works that you do, through to things like ayahuasca and other left field things that people can do. But either way, clear yourself, body, mind, and spirit. So that's number 2. Number 3, change your mindset. Remove your internal blocks and self-limiting beliefs. It almost sounds like you got to kind of almost get to go to war with your ego. You've got to actually challenge your ego, and each time you think, "Hey, I'm the best, I'm really good, I really deserve this more than every other people," you got to curb that arrogance. You got to curb that tendency to think that you're better than everyone else and that you've got some kind of entitlement. There has to be humility, and yet at the same time a strong desire to fulfill what you want. And it's got to be noble. If it's some kind of selfish thing that you want, I think, harking back to the point you said, you know, the 1 million, 10 million thing, that's not gonna work for you. So change your mindset. Number 4, get grateful. Get grateful now. Get rich quick? No. Get grateful quick. That's number 4. I got number 5. Write your affirmations in the positive. Really, could you give us an example of that? Number 5. How would you articulate an affirmation in the positive?
If it was a material affirmation, you would say, I mean, one of the material affirmation would be, you could say, for me, it was, I own an Aston Martin.
Right.
That was one of mine I did early on. You know,
okay.
I own an Aston Martin. And when I would affirm that, I'd do it over and over again. And I'd see myself driving the car, I'd feel the wheel and hear the growl of it, you know, feel the leather. Powerful car. And I really immersed myself in that, you know, and, so with material ones, you know, one of the best ones I did, it was, I'm always in the right place at the right time.
Abundance. So simple.
Yeah, it's simple. Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. all of my needs are constantly met. And I did that. I must have, done that mantra a million times. I just, immersed myself in that. And because it kind of covers all bases, it's the material, it's, personal, it's kind of got
and it's in the present tense, right? Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. All of my needs are met.
Yeah.
It's powerful, it's positive, and it's present.
Yeah.
All three P's.
Yeah. And you're getting everything you want, and I really did, I got everything I wanted. And, but I think the real key is you've got to have a clear goal. It's the first point is to write down a list of goals, write them down in the present tense, so that I own an Aston Martin, I own a £1 million house, I own a villa in Florida, whatever it is. It may be something else. If you want to do a personal goal, you could, you could affirm that you love learning to speak Spanish. You love learning to play the guitar. You make a career as a musician. I have an amazing career as a musician. Right. You can make them a bit general, so I would play with them, but always state them in the positive tense. And when you are in a state of meditative state, affirm these goals, feel them, put your feelings into them. That's another important part of it. Don't just say them, really feel it, resonate with yourself.
Inject feeling, emotion into it.
Yeah, emotion. That's a powerful part of it. And it's amazing how the universe responds to you. There was a doctor, Dr. Emoto, that discovered that when he played positive affirmations to water, he would the crystalline structure of the water would be very, very beautiful.
Be affected by it.
It was ice. He worked with ice, didn't he? But he
worked with ice crystals. And
ice crystals,
in 3 cities. He actually, just to make sure it wasn't some random thing. The guy actually enlisted people in London, New York, and Tokyo, if I remember rightly.
Right, and then he would do the positives, and there'd be this beautiful crystalline structure to the ice, and then he'd do the opposite, the negative, play Hitler speeches, and this skip the negative energy to. And they'd be totally opposite. They wouldn't.
There would be no structure to those geometrical patterns under the microscope of that ice water, right?
Yeah, which absolutely shows you. It shows you how our mind is such a powerful tool, and also, it's been proven in quantum physics that thoughts can affect external atoms and molecules. Atoms and molecules, in a laboratory test will respond differently depending on the thoughts that you project towards them. There's been many scientific studies with that kind of thing. So our thoughts that we project out are so powerful. And, when you're on the abundance trail and you're doing your affirmations regularly and you're meditating every day and, you're affirming to yourself and you're doing the clearing work, that all builds up to a very powerful energetic force that you're projecting out into the universe. And, the world will change if you do that.
That's massive. That really is, because I think those perhaps are the missing keys here. That big step for so many people, and I've heard people say the law of attraction doesn't work for me. I've tried it. It's just nonsense. It doesn't do anything. And, actually the fact of the matter is the law of attraction can and does work. But if you are not clearing your inner channels, if you're not clearing that pipe for the water to flow through, imagine yourself being a hose pipe that's blocked. If you cannot clear your channels, how can that water flow through you? And that water we're talking about, of course, is that powerful force of the law of attraction. That powerful force of the law of attraction cannot flow through one if our channels, body, mind, and spirit, have blockages. Those blockages are cleared through hypnotherapy, through recordings like you've done, through the power of mantra, the power of meditation. We talk about this in urban spirituality, mantra therapy all the time. Let us invest 10, 15, 20 minutes of our day in stillness and in introverting inside ourselves, using meditation, hypnotherapy, and other tools to allow that internal cleansing. It's like the internal Brillo pad. It's the psychological Brillo pad, folks. It's the scrubber that cleans away and unblocks it. It's your WD-40, whatever they call it, sulfuric acid. I don't know. It's the thing that clears your pipes, guys.
You got to clean your pipes.
You got to clean your pipes for it to work. I love that, Glenn. I love that. Glenn, what?
That's just to say that, you know, and when I first used to do those affirmations, I would have, you know, these thoughts creep in, this negativity and self-doubt, you know, because I'd never experienced any kind of abundance in my
Yeah,
life.
right.
Struggle. So, you know, for me, I had to override that. You know, I was working on clearing it, but mentally, I had to override the doubt and the lack of belief that I would achieve this amazing, abundant life. And
Mm,
so that was a big part of it. I managed to do that. You know, through the clearing work that I was doing, clearing my conditioning, my
right.
karma, I was able to do that. But I kept going. That was the thing. I just kept going. And I think, you know, if you look at any successful person, normally the common trait is that they keep going. They never give up. And I think that was probably the one thing that got me to where I am. It was you know, even though I got knocked back, you know, I just kept going. I just kept on going. And eventually it all panned out, you know. And today I've had this amazing day. My oldest son, Lee, is visiting, who you know very well.
I
My
do.
two other little boys, we've had an amazing day. We've actually been swimming under a waterfall here in southern Spain, near Coin.
I love Coin, right close to
We
Mijas.
we just randomly said today, what should we do today? And we looked up beauty spots, and we found this little place that's just incredible. It was near outside Coin. We had to walk down there. Kind of, it was a bit of a hairy walk with the two young kids, but we got down and we were swimming under this waterfall. Now
Incredible.
there's no material possessions involved in that, but what an
Nothing.
abundant. We all feel like incredible, abundant, happy, buzzed up on life because we've done something so beautiful and natural. And that for me is all part of this journey. It's you know, being able
Completely.
to experience those kind of things.
Isn't that so important to be doing right now? Whoever we are and whichever stage of our journey of manifestation we're at,
Mm.
what you're saying is we shouldn't be waiting until we get to that position to feel like we've won the lottery or become millionaires. We should be doing this right now. We should be finding our waterfall or our park or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
it is, our thing with our family, our playing our piano, our hobby, whatever that thing is that gives us that joy, that spark, that fire. We should be
Yeah.
doing it now, because the
Absolutely.
more we
Get out
do
of
that, we're
nature.
sending a message to the universe that we're actually feeling fulfilled. We're feeling grateful. That's
Yeah.
not just talking about it. That's not just thinking, Glenn, right? You are feeling it right there.
Absolutely. You know, you can go out and walk in nature, walk through the forest, walk through a woodland. You don't need any money to do that. You know, stand by the beach, stand on the beach, look at the waves, and you can feel abundant when you do those things. You know, and
Incredible.
it's all part of the whole holistic journey. And, you know, and I wish I'd known that when I was living in the tower block in Penge and driving the minicab, because I was just, you know, wading through treacle. That's what it felt like. But if I'd been out more in nature and, you know, the abundance journey would have sped up, you know, it would have been much quicker. And I think, you know, having done that journey from there to now, you know, I kind of infused my recordings and my new books with that whole thing to hopefully speed the journey up for other people. Because I know with that knowledge, I would have done it a lot quicker.
I like it. I've come up with a saying, Glenn. It's come right now. Get grateful now, feel abundant now. Both of those things, right? Get grateful now,
That's your new book,
feel
man.
abundant now. Right there, man. That's it. We'll work together on that one.
Yeah.
Feel abundant now, folks. Why are we waiting? I mean, I'm just talking to you and I feel grateful that I got this position, that, you know, we got a chance to talk together. I feel happy. I'm not worried about it. You know,
Mm.
my lower back pain at the moment, nothing. It's, you know, it's all forgotten about because we feel grateful for what we got, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
and a healthy dose of humility wouldn't help either.
That mixed in, it's all part of the journey, isn't it? And all part of it,
I,
you know. And I think, you know, that's the thing. See abundance in life, you know, see it everywhere because it is all around us. You know, if you live in the Western world, you know, we do live in a very abundant part of the world. And although the world's a bit chaotic and there's a lot of, you know, other stuff going on, you know, we've got some very strange leaders running
yeah,
the place, you
sure.
know, but don't give them any energy. Don't focus on that because it's, you know, there's not a lot we can do about that. You know, we can affect ourselves while we're on this planet and our circumstances. And, you know, we can live in a very abundant, happy space in a very chaotic world. And I think that
Absolutely. I feel that. Glenn, are you still there?
I'm still there. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I feel that. And I think, you know, that's a massive point, that we do need to place our consciousness back inside us and be less troubled about politics, the environment, the environment around us,
Mm.
and be concerned with our inner environment. I think a lot of
Mm.
times we give too much attention to our outer environment. By the way, I'm not talking
Mm.
about not being environmentally friendly. I'm talking about our allegorical environment. The
Mm.
environmental factors around us
Mm.
play far too much on our bandwidth than the
Mm.
environmental factors inside of us. And that's what you're
Mm.
talking about. Gratitude,
Mm.
our ego,
Mm.
humility, gratefulness, abundance, feeling those things. If we focus on our inner environment and refine those things, as if our inside is a laboratory. Imagine
Yeah.
we're a laboratory inside, right? We're performing, as you said, play with it. You got to play with it. So we
Mm.
should be playing in our internal laboratory, not worried so much about the outside, right?
Do you know, that's exactly it. You know, and the more of us that do that, you know, the more of us that, you know, work from our hearts and are truly, you know, grateful for the world, and we're projecting love and, you know, projecting compassion to others, you know,
Right.
other souls on the journey, other, you know, animals on the planet. If you're working on that vibration, the more of us that do that, the world will change. You know, we won't be, you know, if that, you know, sounds a bit idealistic and a bit hippie, but if enough people do that, we will, you know, the external world will change. We won't end up with leaders like Donald Trump and Theresa May. You know, we'll
Yeah.
be, you know, we'll have a spiritual gurus running the world. That, you know, that's the difference. And
That change has to come, and I think
yeah,
you're
from
right,
you
though.
inside, be the change you want to be in the
Be
world.
the change you want to see, and as you say, right behind you on the wall, all you need is love. Love is all you need. And love
Yeah,
is
I mean, I'm a
not,
massive, massive Beatles fan, you know, and the older I get, the more I love them, you know, because they were just such a catalyst for projecting love out into the world. And, you know, they came out, they incarnated into this planet to do some amazing things. You know, I know you're very connected to the Krishna temple in the UK, and George Harrison bought that temple and made incredible, you know, spread the legacy of that is just incredible. The work that goes on there and the good that comes from that, all from George Harrison's donation in the 70s. People don't realize how amazing that was, that one act.
That one act has been just the largest cataclysmic positive snowball ever witnessed, I think, in Western civilization. I would say that far. We've just seen 70,000 people attend the Janmashtami festival, the largest Indian cultural festival outside of India, attended by people of all races and colors. Why? Because this one man, this great yet humble musician, George Harrison, donated that place to some responsible monks, and fast forward 40 years and look what you got.
And you think, you know, Prabhupada came over from India, and, you know, the Beatles kind of connected with him, the biggest band in the world back then. And, you know, it just became this huge global thing that's spreading love and higher consciousness. You know, what an incredible thing, you know. But if we all do that in our own little way, you know, we can all add to that. You know, the world is going to change. You know, if you get bogged down in the newspapers and the news and what's going on, it can seem very depressing and very, you know, you get down with it. But, you know, if you work on your inner self and
work on your inner environment, I think that goes back to work on your inner environment. If you, instead of complaining about why the law of abundance isn't working for you, get grateful now and feel abundant now. And just by making those mindset changes, using your inner laboratory to make internal changes in your environment, the externals will manifest. That which you wish to see will manifest upon you in your life.
As I said, you know, it's a law. The law of attraction is a universal law. It's an energy in the same way that gravity is an energy. You can't see it and you can't always feel it, but it's out there working.
Out there.
We just got to plug into it. You know, through our higher consciousness, you know, through that channel, you know, when we go into meditation, we access that and we open up, we expand, and we tune into this higher frequency.
I like that a lot.
Energy. It's out there. It's always there for us, just ready to plug into.
Yeah, people forget that, but that is exactly what it is. I'm hoping, folks, that when you rewind this interview and listen back, you'll catch these gems, because each one of these are powerful keys to unlock the law of attraction into our lives and bring it in. It's almost opening the door to the law of attraction, the doors that were locked previously to those of us who followed that clever Australian lady who made 8 different participants of The Secret very rich. When you listen to her and feel frustrated that the damn thing never worked, and Esther Hicks and the others are talking about something that's just a load of cack, remember what Glenn is saying, because this is the real process by which we can by which we can manifest. You don't have to spend $1 million. You don't have to sign up on some big course. It's that straightforward. And I think, Glenn, let me just say that, from my heart, I feel that, you're a great example of somebody who gives with his heart. I've always known you to be somebody who's really humble. I'm not going to go into how many charitable causes you're supporting. I happen to know that you do a lot of work in Spain and in the UK, and people who you're supporting in one way or another. And I think that's just testimony that whatever you're getting, you're giving back. Again, it's speaking about abundance. Abundance was never about taking. It was about being a vessel and then just giving back out, right?
It's a free flow, isn't it? The whole abundance thing is about giving and receiving.
It's that pipe again. You clear your pipe, let abundance flow through you, not into you, and you keep it. It flows through you. Right?
Absolutely.
I love this pipe thing.
Yeah, that's perfect. Clean the pipe and
clean the pipe,
let it flow through. Let it flow.
Let the water fall. As closing, I got a few people coming on and saying some great things. I'm loving the energy of these comments here. Hansa's chipped in saying, unconditionally love, care, and give to others helps. Just giving to other people, the ego thing, that'll calm down. Somebody else coming in, Raina, beautiful. She says, we forget to be grateful for what we have because we're so consumed in chasing the next best thing that we need to be in the moment. We need to be in the moment and get grateful for that moment. Beautifully said, Raina. Mihir's jumping in from South Africa, Glenn. He's popped in saying, I love this. He says, I guess the key is contentment. Acceptance of any circumstance, great or bad, is relative to your perception at that stage. You said this earlier. Acceptance is the wisdom that this too shall pass. And this applies to both success and failure and success, both transient. The agitated mind seeks gratification like a drug.
Yeah. That's so true, isn't it? There's a lot of wise comments in there. You've got some great people listening in.
There's some really, really cool people speaking here and just sharing their views. And I think this again, Snow's chipped in. Snow's saying, oh, she's talking about the ayahuasca, and that's an amazing thing. People, we can fill you in outside of this conversation. And obviously the regulations around it in the UK, etc. Mihir's chiming in saying good and positivity is available freely and in limitless abundance, yet the base ego gyrates to illusionary materialism, leading to insecurity, constant disquiet, restless agitation, and no contentment. Maybe it's temporary, but none. The trick in conscious is the here and now living, which is what you're saying.
Being in the present, being
totally in the present.
And gratitude gives you that. Mindfulness does. And there's a lovely little technique that I still use often. I learned it a number of years ago, and it's where, if you're walking down the street and you're, sometimes I like to people watch, or you're at an airport and you see people, just imagine, that you're looking at them with no judgment, however they look, whatever creed or color or whatever, you look at them, no judgment, and you just project a feeling of love to them, from your heart to theirs, and you just see them as another soul on the journey, with their own struggles or whatever they're going through. Right. You just project this feeling of love from your heart to theirs. And it's quite amazing how that people can respond to you. Sometimes they'll walk towards you because you're projecting this feeling towards them, and they'll connect with you. And, I've expanded that on to using that in, before I do interviews, before I go into meetings, or if I've got face a difficult situation.
You visualize that.
I visualize that person and I project a feeling of love to them with no conditioning, no prejudgment, any negativity around it. I just clear it away and just project a feeling of love. They're just another soul on the journey. And it's a very powerful technique to take into many different places, because it always changes your perception and changes the connection you have with that person. They respond differently to you because you've walked in with this vibration from the heart.
Right.
And it's powerful, so powerful.
I'd like to almost capture that last 2 minutes of wisdom and have it on my phone every time you're in that situation, on an interview, when you're in a public facing situation. Hell, even with family members, troublesome family members, that same.
I use it most with my family members.
Because you've got some pretty awesome family members I know out there as well.
Colorful characters.
And I'm honored to know some of them, of course. They're really good. Glenn, quickly tell us, where is the best place for us to learn more about your products and grab your products? And what is
Okay,
the
well,
key thing that you want us to share or check out?
so probably the most easily accessible is my apps. So I've got a number of apps out there, but the number one app is called Relax and Sleep Well, and it can be downloaded on the Android Play Store or the Apple Store. And it's basically got 4 free recordings in there. So there's 4 meditations. One's mindfulness. One is Relax and Sleep Well, which help you sleep at night. I think there's not an abundance free one in there, but there's 4 free recordings. So you can listen to those, put your headphones on, lay down.
Straight away.
Yeah, and if you connect with those recordings, if you like them, then there's another 80 in-apps which you can buy in there. And they're like
phenomenal.
$3 or $4, £2 or £3.
It's real affordable, real accessible, easy to get.
Yeah, and it's a lovely way to sell because people can listen to the free stuff. If they like it, they then have no qualms about paying for an in-app. So it's a lovely way to sell. I've also got a Facebook fan page which people can enjoy. Social media.
I've seen it. That's awesome. You got some great posts on that Facebook fan page.
Yeah, that's a lovely, lovely place. And yeah, it's lovely to connect there. We're streaming there live tonight. So that's the first time I've done that on that page. So
awesome.
Yeah, fantastic.
Big shout out to Glenn's followers across the globe. We hope that you've been benefiting and absorbing this powerful nectar, if I can call it that, this juice that we should be drinking deep. Organic, 100% vegan, allergy-free juice that Glenn has been sharing over the past hour. We should be drinking it. It's 0 calorie, and it can yet it's the most nourishing stuff, Glenn, that you've been sharing with us. I'm super honored that you've been on this show.
Prash, it's always a pleasure, mate. You know, I love seeing you personally. When you come out here and we jam.
Oh, man.
You always lift us up. You know, my family, we always love seeing you. So you and your beautiful wife, I can't wait to see you again out here.
I'm honored, man. I can't wait to be out there and go to that waterfall. And
we'll do that.
Gratitude with you there.
Next time we will do that. And you'll feel it more abundant than you've ever felt being under this waterfall. Me and Nicola, we sat under them. We just thought, this is unbelievable.
Amen. Amen to that. I can't wait for that. We'll do that. Folks, those of you who've listened to the end of this, be assured that we'll make sure we have links for Glenn's products and website and other goodies that Glenn has. Don't worry, we'll make sure they're all there. And my humble request to all of you, as always, is if you've liked, felt moved, touched, inspired by anything you've heard on this show or any of our previous shows, show some love, like the Mantra Therapy page, and share this to the max so that we can do the maximum good for maximum people across this globe and change hearts, minds, and souls, one person at a time, every single day. Show your love. We're small, but our heart is big. Give us the love, share, like, and comment. Right, Glenn?
Absolutely, mate. One love.
One love, man. Folks, thank you so much. I'm going to say the last thing, which is, if you're listening to this and it's the 5th of September, 2018, we are just 5 weeks away, just under 5 weeks away from our incredible Tuscany retreat. Those of you listening, if you've not been, we're going to be taking people into the heart of Tuscany, 25 minutes from Florence, in the mountains for 4 days of a powerful mind, body, spirit, wellness, transformational retreat with lots of relaxation, great people, not unlike Glenn, and many, many good things that are going to be out there. If you want to find out more, check out the links. Join us. You'll be supporting a great charity out in Italy, and you'll be doing a ton of good. And hopefully, just hopefully, you'll be able to practice the law of attraction as Glenn has taught us in this episode and make it work for you.
Thank you, Prash. It's
Glenn,
been a real honor.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
You take
Hasta
care.
luego. Mucho, mucho gracias. Vaya con Dios. Ciao.